This episode of A Conversation with John Conenna is sponsored by Generate. In today's digital age, staying ahead means harnessing the power of generative AI. Wondering how your small or medium-sized business can join this revolution? Look no further than Generate, your strategic partner for integrating cutting-edge generative AI solutions. We create personalized plans, adapting existing AI technologies to fit your specific business needs. Plus, our expert team provides essential training, empowering you to make the most of these innovative technologies. Interested in transforming your business with AI? Reach out to us at generateteam@gmail.com. That's generate, GENERAIT, team@gmail.com. And now, on with the episode.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of A Conversation with John Conenna. Tonight, it brings me great pleasure to bring in a lady from NBC Chicago, anchor, reporter, and you get to see her here on the weekends a lot, which when I first noticed her on Saturdays, I watch her a lot, and it's the one and only Regina Waldroup that we're going to talk to tonight, and it brings me really great pleasure because I was honored when you answered that email, Regina, and said yes, because I was like, always a shocker, when
I always answer emails. I always answer.
Yeah, that is fantastic because the biggest thing with me is I always tell my wife and my kids, you know what, if I was famous, I would sign every autograph imaginable. And they always say to me, well, Dad, not everybody can sign and not everybody. But again, how's it going with you, young lady? And what is going on with you these days?
Working on more Dalton stuff. Just, knee deep in that story. I've taken a deep dive into Dalton and doing that. Now I have other communities contacting me. They want help. I'm from Harvey, so Harvey wants help. Sauk Village, Riverdale. I could go on. And I'm only one person, and I'm a general assignment reporter.
Right.
So that means I don't get to choose what stories I do most of the times. Many times I get assigned. I'm not an investigative reporter. So, it's hard to get to all these places, but I'm trying my best to give every community a little love.
I was going to bring that up in the middle of this, so you kind of stole a little bit of the thunder.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. That's why you got to be ready with this to switch the gears. I don't want it to be, well, how's it going, Regina? And no, so this is good. But we're going to talk about Tiffany Hayward midway through this.
Okay.
And the Dalton thing, I want to touch on it a little bit. But the first thing with me that impressed me the most, because I went to Loyola University, and this is what I wanted to do, what you do, but had to go into my dad's family business. What starts the passion for Regina? When does it start when she wants to get this all going on?
Well, I kind of took the long route. So I'm going to be honest. So my father, growing up, my father was functionally illiterate, so he could not read. Okay. And there are a total of 9 of us. And so for some reason, he liked my voice. And so I used to read the mail. I would read tax bills. I would read the newspaper. I read magazines on a Sunday evening while my friends were out playing. I was reading to my father, and I thought it was the biggest pain of my life. There I was, 13 years old, reading to a grown man, and I just couldn't understand it. He had so many other kids, but he said he liked my voice out of all of his children. So I would read to him. But then I really wasn't interested in journalism or anything like that. And, went to college, went to school. My background is in print journalism, worked at Allstate Insurance for a little bit in corporate communications and corporate volunteerism. And then one day I came home from lunch and I saw this woman on TV on Channel 5, and she was an investigative reporter. And at that moment, I said, I want to be that woman. I want to be like her.
I have to tell you, I know you're talking about Renee Ferguson.
I'm talking about Renee Ferguson, my mentor.
What a great reporter. Yeah, like you said, watched her for many years. Going back to your father, that is something, because there's a connection there, meaning you had to feel out of those 8, 9 siblings. I don't know if you're in the middle, you were the oldest, you were the youngest, whatever.
I'm the youngest. When they got to me, they could stop because I'm the perfect child. So when they got to me, they said, you know what, we're done.
We're done, right?
Perfection.
Yeah, we got our Regina and we got our star. No, but I have to tell you, there's a connection, meaning, okay, I don't know if you fed off the others, because nowadays people say, well, that second one learns how to walk faster. That second one learns how to talk faster. But I have to tell you, what a thing, because it's almost in the opposite of my family. My mother couldn't speak English and could only speak
Mm,
Italian. And we had to help mom because,
yep.
here was this woman. So, I mean, you had to feel a confidence of brewing right then and there.
No, not
No?
confidence. I mean, you're a kid and your friends are out playing, you hear them out playing, and Sunday evening you knew, my father called me and it was time to read. It was
Wow.
time to read to him. And
Yeah.
and if I didn't read it the right way, he said, go back over it, read it again. Slow it down, read it to me again. And so that was what my Sunday evenings were spent doing. Of course, after gardening, he was a big gardener too. So after we did a bunch of gardening, I gardened with my dad too. And then after that, there was no playing. It was time to read.
I see that in the notes here that a lot of things about you that you love. But I have to tell you, what a disciplinarian in a good way,
Hmm.
because now it teaches you this unbelievable work ethic that you have.
Yep.
And it's fantastic. So you graduate high school. Do you go on to Roosevelt there from there?
Not immediately, no. My father also had a business. He was a small business owner, and so I worked for my dad. He would remodel houses, and he also put up fences. He was a fence guy.
Yeah.
And I think this is so crazy because he knew all these things, but yet he couldn't read. And so, but yet he still found a way to do all these things. And so I worked for him for a little bit. And, then I decided spending a year working for him. I said, yeah, I want to go to college. So then I went to Roosevelt. Yep.
How long? I mean, was it a year or two after high school?
Yeah, it was a year or two after. Yep.
Yeah. So it got back in because I mean, from there, then after that, you go on to Columbia to get the master's, correct?
No, no. So after Roosevelt, then I go on to work for Allstate Life Insurance Company.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And that's when
And
you
then
get into that communications consulting thing.
right. And so while I'm there working, they pay for you to go to school. They pay at
Wow.
least partial part of your tuition. So I would take classes at night at Columbia, and
Wow.
Allstate was paying for that. So
Yeah.
it worked out.
Yeah. And again, I mean, you know, I just feel you don't do these things without that upbringing,
Yep. Mhm.
just that keep the progression of how you started this is just amazing.
Thank you.
When you get out of when you were at Columbia, are you kind of getting noticed? Are you getting
No, no. See, I got out of Columbia, and all my friends were getting jobs in Illinois in the Midwest, and I wasn't having any bites. Nobody. Kept getting rejection letters, and I was like, man, this is. And
yeah,
so I went to my mentor, and she helped me make a new reel, and then I got a bite. I got a bite in Coos Bay, Oregon. Never heard of it. Never didn't know where it was, but this was my adventure, and that's where I started my career, and that's where I took it. It was the best experience I could have ever had was going to Coos Bay, Oregon.
and what was the name of that again in Oregon?
Coos Bay, Oregon, on the southern Oregon coast.
Okay. And I have to tell you, it ain't no mile away from Harvey, correct?
No,
Yeah,
no, but
exactly.
I needed to grow up. I needed to experience things. I needed an adventure, and that's what I needed to have at that point in my life.
When you go there, Regina, is it the first of the kind of the news thing? Doing the news type of
Oh,
thing?
yes, yes, yes. That
Yeah.
was my first
The
job as
journalism part. Yeah.
yeah, as an anchor reporter. That was my first job as an anchor reporter. Yeah. And I guess the big thing in Coos Bay, Oregon, like the population of Black people was less than 3%. But you know what? It didn't matter because I can't say enough about the people I met in Coos Bay, Oregon. They were the nicest people. And it really didn't matter what you look like. And that's where I learned that nobody cares what you look like. There are some really good people in this world, and sometimes you got to go away to learn that.
Right. And you know what? Thank you for saying that because again, it's a different mindset, correct?
Yeah.
Where, when you're coming from Chicago, the division of divisions when you're growing up,
Right.
and now you go there and you're like, wait a minute. Okay, so Regina and John are one and the same.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's
beautiful.
right.
And really, truly, thank you for bringing that up because that's the way it should be,
Mhm. Yep.
all the time. So, how long does the Oregon thing last?
So I'm in Oregon. 2 years, but then during my first couple of weeks there, I have a fire. And it's at my house. I lived in a house, and there's a fire at 976 Date. And so in a small town, everybody knows who you are, and everybody knew I was the TV lady. And my boss told me to go. There was a fire at this house at 976 Date, and as I'm driving there, I realized that's my house. I get there, my house is on fire. I love reptiles, and so one of my reptiles had caused a fire. Long story short, I lose my house. I'm just on the job 6 weeks. They tell me to go back home, go back to Chicago. I said, I'm not going back. So I stayed in a hotel for a month. The Salvation Army and the Red Cross helped me, got back on my feet, and I stuck it out for 2 years.
Wow.
And then, in this business, you move every 2 years. Generally, your contract's 2 years. So I went from Coos Bay, Oregon to Elmira, New York, from Elmira, New York to Albany, New York, Albany, New York, back to Chicago, only to get laid off.
Wow. Wow. I mean, and again, you talk about when you're doing this every 2 years, I'm the outsider looking in. This is, you got to be able to adjust. And here you are, this, when I see you, here's this tiny lady, and you're telling me all this. And you were what made you have the courage and the fortitude to keep going forward after the little that you're telling me right now?
Sometimes when you have a vision, a dream, sometimes people don't believe in you. Like when I told my family I wanted to be in TV, nobody believed me. They said, you're kind of shy. We don't see you being in TV, but Renee Ferguson believed in me for some reason. And so I said, I'm not going to let everybody down. I'm going to prove to them that I can be in TV, but not only can I be in TV, I'm going to go back to the third largest market in the country and be on TV.
Wow.
Eat your words. So
yeah. You know what? Sometimes that, and I hate to use this word, sometimes that negativity of a person or the opinion of a person that's going the negative route sometimes opens that door in our mind to say, okay, I got this. And I'm going to prove people wrong. What was, correct me here, what was the name of what was the code letters for the station in Oregon?
KCBY.
KCBY. And then
KCBY.
In New York was the first one WETM?
WETM. And then I went to WXAA, and then I came back here. I came back here. I worked at CLTV WGN.
Yes, I remember it.
They merged. I got laid off. I was laid off for 3 years and nobody would hire me.
And that was that the time when CLTV was kind of going on the slide a little bit, where things were changing in our media market, how the news was being perceived, with news streams and everything else?
Well, yeah, because WGN had, they were going to merge with CLTV. And of course there were going to be some layoffs because they couldn't take all the people that were at CLTV to WGN. And so I was, last hired, first fired. So I was a casualty. Right.
That kind of thing. And that was in the early 2000s?
That was around 2009.
Yeah. Okay. And were you at Fox? There was a time when you were at Fox 23 for a while?
I was at Fox before that, before moving back here. Yep. In Albany, New York. Right.
Wow. And of course, when we talk about towns, like I think you mentioned even the town of Elmira.
Yep.
And Albany, all these towns. I mean, but this is New York. I mean, these are cities in New York.
Right. It's so funny because when I first moved to New York, I thought New York was all New York City. I had no idea. And New York is, there's a lot of rural places. Where I lived at, they called it the Twin Tiers. And so while I was there, I was actually engaged to a farmer. He was a cattle farmer. And so I was engaged for 2 years to a cattle farmer. And I learned to respect farmers and all they do as stewards of the land. And they really do love farming.
They love, yeah.
And that's all they want to do.
I have to ask you something. I don't know you that well, but when I look at you on the weekend and I see you now, I don't see you with the farmers. So
that was the problem. I love animals.
Yes.
I love farming, but I also like dressing up and going out. But if you are married or engaged to a farmer, pretty much farming is their life. That is their love. That is their passion. And the idea of, getting dressed up, going somewhere, they got the lower 40, they got to plow right now. So, so that's why it didn't work.
So I have to tell you, Regina, the farmer, just like anything else, like what you're doing, is 24/7.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah. It is 24/7. Yeah. So I want to give our audience a little bit of a tidbit on Regina here that I should have opened up with. Lecturer, animal lover, turtle keeper. We're going to talk about the turtle. A news junkie, health nut, wife, and of course, a mother of one. I don't know if there's one or two, but I think there's one for sure. But that's the impression you have given me of being well-rounded. I mean, when you've mentioned just in this short 15 minutes, everything that you've talked about, I got to ask you, was the goal in the mind of this Regina Waldroup always to get back to the Windy City?
Yep.
Was that the goal from day one when you were,
From
let's
day
say,
one.
the Oregon girl?
From day one, I was going to come back here. I was going to prove everybody wrong and be on TV where I grew up, a small town, from a girl from Harvey who could, the youngest of 9, a father with a 4th grade education, a mother with a 6th grade education. The boy that they pour into us, and look what we've become.
How were your other brothers and sisters when you're got this goal going on that you're going to do this? I mean, did you get their opinions too? Come on, Regina. What you know?
Yeah, nobody believed me. They're like, yeah, you're not going to be able to do that. They're like, yeah, you're so shy. You can't look people in the eye. They're like, yeah, it's never going to happen. Good luck. Yeah, you're going to be on TV. Okay.
Yeah. And again, like I said a couple of minutes back, it just gives you that drive and that determination
Right.
to do it. I got to ask you, so you head back here in 2013?
I had back here in 2000.
Well, yeah, you were here on CLTV, yeah.
I was at CLTV for in 2006. I'm back here. I'm working at CLTV, and I get laid off in 2009.
What goes on between 9 and 13?
A lot. So yeah, I was unemployed for a while.
Okay.
I was unemployed for a while, begging family members for money, certifying for unemployment, looking for a job. I was doing some freelance or some part-time teaching, but at the College of DuPage. And then one day I was planning Target. I said, I guess I'll go work at Target. I was going to get my red shirt and my khakis, and I was going to be happy at Target.
When does the door open again? You're back at NBC in 13. How does that door open?
Well, I had an agent, but he wasn't having any luck. Joel Wiseman was my agent, and he wasn't having any luck. And then one day, while I'm filling out an application for Target, he calls me and says, NBC would like to hire you as a freelancer 3 days a week. And I'm like, okay, great.
Wow.
But it was never 3 days a week. It was always 5. It was never 3 days a week.
Yeah. That's that job where you say, yeah, I'm only working 3 days and
right.
I'm off the other 4. You're never off.
No, I was never off. I was always filling in. Yep.
Yeah. How does that hit you? Because here, I'm sure when you're going through that period of 09 to 13, we're talking 4 years. Did you think the door was closed?
I'll be honest. So my husband, I was dating him at the time, and he said, your dream, it's time to look for something else, because I am a dark-skinned Black woman. And so you don't really see people look like me that much. And he was like, yeah, you're a dark-skinned Black woman. They've got somebody who looks like you, it's time to really give that dream up. And so at that point, I was hating watching TV news, because I kept thinking, why did I get let go and the other people didn't? I'm like, I'm a hard worker. My father taught me to be a hard worker.
Sure.
I thought working hard was enough to get you places, but it's not, because you have to socialize, you have to work, but still you have to, and I'm not going to say it's play a game, but you have to network. And I'm trying to learn how to be better at networking, because you can't just bury yourself in all your work and think that hard work will pay off, because it does in some fashion, but also if people don't know you, especially your bosses, then they're like, yeah, next. So.
Right. I have to ask you, Regina, we'll use the word because it's the most popular word here in our crazy world after COVID. It's the most popular. Tell me if I'm wrong. But we're talking in anything, whatever the job is, there's a lot of politics to be played, correct?
Yeah. And see, my parents didn't teach. My dad, he never taught me how to play politics. Again, you just work hard, put your head down and work hard. And so, yeah, you've got to play politics. So,
over the last, I'm going to say 10 years, the renewal of the woman has really come into force. I see it in this town where this town, when I say this town, Chicago, Illinois, has made big strides in the way of the woman. In the way of sports, I see it nationally. I mean, the other night I was watching the Sunday night football game, and Maria Taylor has made such a great splash I mean, what a presence like you that she has. I mean, yes, sometimes I'll say to my wife, I got to watch the Sunday night football. And she'll turn to me and she'll say, you're watching Maria Taylor. You're not fooling me.
But she knows sports too, though. She's very
But she knows her name. Exactly.
Right.
And this is what I see about you. I mean, on Saturdays at 5 o'clock, when I reached out to you 2.5 weeks ago, you have a confidence about you. There's a confidence in that shy face that I see. So in 13, you go from 3 days, but it's really 5. What else? What's the next step here at NBC because you're into the 11th year there, correct?
I am. Well, not really, because I freelanced for 7 years. And unfortunately, when you're a freelancer at NBC, those years don't count.
Okay.
So it's like, even though I have all those years and I worked all those years, they only count when you work full time. So, but anyway, I have been there 11 years. And so, TV is changing, and how people get their news is changing. And I want to change with that and be able to provide people how they want their news. And doing the documentary I finished on Dalton, I learned that there are people who watch news only on YouTube. I did not know that. Right. I get my TV linear from an actual TV screen. I don't, and that's just me. But some people only watch news on their phones or, again, on YouTube. And so I want to be able to pivot and be able to give people news how they want it. But I like doing very interesting stories as well.
Yeah, no, you've had a few of them. And like I said, we'll touch on this Dalton thing. Are you critiqued on how you deliver? We talk about ratings all the time in life. Like, okay, the ratings. Oh yeah, right now, Channel 7, what Robbie Dutt is doing better than right now than Allison Rosati during the week. Mm-hmm. Are you guys always being critiqued? Is there still that pressure?
I don't pay attention to ratings, and even if they send an email and say, oh, your Saturday night ratings are, you got so many this and you're number one. I never have paid attention to ratings, and I still don't, and right. I just go in and I try to do the best job I can while being social and trying to network, but I just don't I don't pay attention to the numbers. They are what they are. And
they are what they are, right. Yeah. And you know what? But I still do believe that you got your people that are watching 2. You got your teacher that are watching 5, 7, and of course the local station here in Chicago, which has always had a strong delivery for the news, in the sense of, I think they're mostly all news, is Channel 9. Yep. But that way. But of course, the 2, 5, and 7 are your ones that are constantly, I think, going up against each other. Mm-hmm. When you came on to do this, now you were the assignment reporter. What was the next progression? What was the next step where they says, okay, we're going to promote you to what? What was next before what you're doing now?
Well, of course, I wanted to be like my mentor. I wanted to be the investigative reporter. Unfortunately, I didn't get the job. I did apply for that job and I did not get it, but that was my goal. And so since I didn't get that position, I know that there's something better for me down the line. And so I just keep focusing on doing the best stories that I can.
Yeah. Have you been in contact with Renee Ferguson for many years?
All the time. When I work on holidays, which is usual, my family goes to her house and they usually eat with her and her late husband. And I was just at our house a few weeks ago. So yeah, we maintain contact all the time.
And I mean, and again, she's the type where, again, the mentor, the looking up to, she's always being constructive with you.
Yes. Yeah. He always asks me, what do I want? Do I want this? Do I want to be an anchor? Do I want to be a reporter? She's always when I'm doing a great job, she lets me know. When I'm not doing a great job, she lets me know, which is very infrequent, but she's very honest with me. She's very honest.
Yeah, but that's great because, coming from somebody of, that prominence that she had, because I remembered her right away all those years. Of course, when she was on there with Carol Marine and Ron Majors.
That's right.
Which was a dynamic duo of that time, that era. So, What do you like doing better, the reporting part, or do we like the Regina that's all dressed up and ready to go and laying it all on the line at 5 o'clock on a Saturday night?
I like both. And if I could keep this schedule that I have, it's great because I think sometimes when you anchor all the time, you forget about people and you forget about it really is about people and you
Yeah.
forget how to interact with them and tell their stories. And so I have the best of both worlds. I'm anchoring on Saturday, but the rest of the time I'm out in the streets with people, getting to know people. And,
People.
I'll say it again, being out there, interacting with people, what you learn is that people are really nice.
Yeah.
I tell my daughter that all the time. I meet some of the greatest people. Sometimes I meet them on the best day of their lives. Sometimes I meet them on the worst day of their lives. And some of these people I maintain contact with. My husband's always telling me that I shouldn't. But some of these people I maintain contact with because I can't just cut them off like that. I've done your story. I've told your story and I maintain contact with them.
That's fantastic, and it keeps you, with the word I used, well-rounded.
Yeah.
How many, I mean, is it just Saturdays on the anchor thing? Or, I mean, you do a lot of fill-in anchors sometimes.
Just Saturdays usually and fill in during, holidays.
I mean, I think that's got to be the coolest thing to anchor a 5 o'clock news on a Saturday. I mean, I just think it's prominence. How do you feel about that? I mean, you got to feel good that you're coming on at 5.
Well, as an intern at NBC and, walking into that building when I was an intern and thinking, I kept telling myself, one day I'm going to come here, one day I'm going to work here. And then sometimes you have to pinch yourself. You're like, oh my God, I still get butterflies. I get nervous. And I think to myself, the day that doesn't happen is the day I need to walk away. But I still get very nervous. And it's hard to believe sometimes, they call it the imposter syndrome. And so sometimes when I'm about to read on Saturdays, and I can't believe that this is me. And so I have to get out of my head. And so I try to meditate and do yoga before I go on, because if not, I get in my head and think, oh my gosh, this is really you. You are here. And it's really hard to believe that a girl from a poor family in Harvey, the
Wow.
youngest of 9, could achieve this. And the greatest thing for me, my mother passed 2 years ago, and she used to watch me every day. And she would talk about what the story I did, what I was wearing.
Wow.
I mean, that was her big thing was, I saw you today, and that's my daughter. And everybody knew that, I was on the news.
Yeah, that is something. I mean, and thanks for bringing up your mom, because I'm sure she didn't miss one
Nope,
episode of that. I
he
got to
did
tell
not.
you, Regina, something before, and then I want to touch on this Dalton thing. And then, of course, I have a 5-question game I play with you because I know your time is valuable. But I got to tell you something. I coached hockey for many years here in the state of Illinois. And I would always go up to my teams before we get on that ice. And I'd say, there'd be a minute left before we were going to enter that arena. And I would say, are you nervous? And they would say, Mr. Conenna, we're nervous. I go, that means you care.
See, oh yeah.
That means
Amen.
you care.
Yes. Yep.
And that means you want to do it right. And you
Yep.
want to go out there and do whatever we had to do that night. So you, young lady, just gave me the goosebumps, because
Thank you.
that's great. Because you know what? I got to tell you, I thought this news thing was, oh yeah, Regina's coming in at 5. Oh, she walks into the studio 5 to 5.
No,
Got the pretty dress on and the high heels, and
no,
we're ready to go.
no. As a matter of fact, so we'll have a news meeting in the morning at 9 o'clock. And so, like there's stories sometimes that need to be completed, you need to write, you need to report. There are days that I've gone out and reported in Dalton, covered a story, come back,
Oh,
change my
wow.
clothes, and then anchor. And then I'm always filling in, trying to help write stories. And so, no, there are many days where I go out and report, and I'll work a double. I'll be the reporter, then I'll come back.
Wow.
And a lot of people don't do that, but I'm different. I'm a little different because I know what it's like to not have a job, and I know what it's like to have a dream, and I know what it's like to come from nothing to amount to something. And so people will say, oh, you work too hard. I love what I do every day, maybe a little too much, but at least I'm not depressed and sad that I make widgets every day.
Exactly. Regina, that, oh God, I didn't even know that was going on. I thought maybe you'd be, okay, on the realistic part, I thought maybe you'd be in the studio getting ready for the
Nope,
5 o'clock news meeting, 6, 7 hours. That you talk about your mind racing because now you got to report. You got
that's
to be
right.
at Dalton. And now at five
Yep,
o'clock, you got to be in that studio and put on that pretty face and report maybe 6 different stories, a killing, a sporting event, or something else. I got to
yep.
ask you, let's go to this Dalton thing. Just a couple of quick questions. Back in my era, there was a situation here in a town called Cicero with a mayor called Betty Maltese. And
Hmm.
Betty kind of reminds me now of the story of Tiffany Henyard from Dalton. I have to ask Regina Waldroup this question. Are you excited about this story? Is it a nervous story? Are you scared? And how's the mayor been toward you in this whole, I'll call, drama?
Um, I'll just say this. So I am covering the situation in Dalton and the allegations against the mayor. And
Yes.
we do know there's a federal investigation. There are subpoenas, and I'm covering, what is happening. I'm not making this up. We know these are facts. And so a few weeks ago, she invited me to a meeting. And I go to this meeting, and I'm the only reporter, and her boyfriend turns around and he lays into me.
Really? Wow.
And he told me to remember that I'm black, and that
Oh boy.
he lays into me, and I'm the only reporter, but I did the right thing. I kept my cool and I did not say anything. And I just stood there and I took it for 10 minutes. Um, how, but at night I do lock our doors, and I tell my husband to lock our doors because
Yeah.
I don't know, um, where this may lead. So,
I have to ask you when, and of course we're not going there in any of this. I just found this story because I think that was back on December 14th when this all started, correct? A couple of weeks back. I mean,
correct.
at the time is flying. Was she in the room when he was laying into you?
Yes, she gave him the mic and she stood there shaking her head as he's laying into me.
Whoa.
Yes, she's there looking at me, and she's shaking her head, and I stood there, and I accepted whatever they were saying, and we then left.
Wow. But I have to tell you, you just telling me, John Conenna, the guy who's interviewing you tonight, you don't look like you were intimidated, Regina.
No, I wasn't, because I didn't do anything wrong. I'm just
Right.
covering the facts as I know them, what I know to be facts, and I don't think race has anything to do with it. And
No.
you know, um, she has said this before at other meetings. There have been other meetings where I've been at, and she will specifically call, she's like, these, reporters are listening to white men and they need to listen to me. And I'll look around like, who is she talking to? And everybody says she's talking to you. But she said this before in meetings, and I know they're digs at me, and that's okay. But I still do my job, and I'm still covering what's going on. But race has nothing to do with it for me. For me, right was right and wrong is wrong. And she will say, well, she said this before, and so here's her boyfriend. Where were you years ago when Frank Zuccarelli was allegedly doing things? I don't know where I was. I wasn't here, but I'm here now.
Right.
And that's all I can tell you. And for me, again, race has nothing to do with it.
Exactly. Regina, and just a last closing on this. Were you handpicked by NBC to cover this?
Um, I would say, it started with a tip for us. We got a tip, and then that
Okay.
started the whole ball rolling.
Yeah. And this is still ongoing, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Well, you know what? Maybe when I hope when you come back to do a part two with me, we'll know more. But this is fantastic, and
This is great.
so very proud of how you've conducted yourself. And just
Thank
listening
you.
to me tonight, I'm going to lock my door because now I'm part of this.
Always keep the doors locked.
I will. Yes. Okay. Listen, we are going to play a game of 5 questions because I want my audience to know Regina a little bit better. And
Okay.
actually, it's a 5 questions because I know your time is valuable. This has been fantastic tonight. I got to tell you, and there's going to be a 5A, which I think is going to catch you off guard. But 5 questions, and then I got to say something about you that someone said about you that we both know. Okay. I think you mentioned her, but then again, maybe I don't know. You mentioned dad. You've kind of mentioned mom too. but who is really those early mentors that you still talk? This is question one that you still talk about to this day. That early mentor that still keeps, when Regina's having the day at Dalton or when Regina's coming on at 1 minute to 5, what would that early mentor have said to Regina?
The early mentor?
Yeah, who that you still think about to this day that gave you that confidence?
Well, you know, I stuttered growing up and I had a speech impediment. And so Mrs. Gwen was my speech therapist. And so she would hit my knuckles. So she taught me early on.
She did.
She taught me early on. And so whenever I go on and I you know, if I'm talking too fast, I think about Miss Gwen and getting my knuckles slapped.
Okay, so it's a good reminder. It's a great reminder. Okay, so Miss Gwen, because you know this is going viral. So Miss Gwen, it's Okay, what is Regina Waldrop's favorite movie that she could watch 200 times and not get bored? You can give me one or two.
It's a Wonderful Life and Coco.
Okay, beautiful.
I can watch them over and over again, and I see so many things each time that I watch.
And by the way, on the 200 times, I'm sure you could watch It's a Wonderful Life in black and white.
Absolutely.
Yeah, not this colorization.
No, no colorization. No.
All right. I don't know your husband, of course, but I think his first name is David.
It is.
Okay. David Mendel.
Mhm.
Okay. So it's twofold. What's the go-to meal or that go-to restaurant when you tell David, hey, Dave, I've had a hard day at 5. Where are we going tonight? And you're going to get decked out. What's that favorite Chicago restaurant?
Well, I like sushi and I like ramen. And so there's this place downtown called Ramen San.
Oh,
And they have these little fried chicken nuggets and they have this sauce. And so I try not to eat fried foods, but if I were going to venture out and I've had a bad day, I'll have some of that.
Okay, so we'll when David watches this, maybe this weekend, you guys will.
Well, our anniversary Sunday, so hopefully.
Okay, tell him John says we gotta go there. Okay, all right. You threw me a curveball tonight with the farmer thing, so I hope.
Okay.
I'm an R&B guy. I grew up in the clubs.
Okay.
Even this Italian guy, I love the R&B music. So, what is Regina Waldrop's favorite music?
And that's a good question. My daughter asks me that all the time. And so, you know what? My musical taste is all over the place. I can like some country. I can like some rap. I can like some jazz. If you go into my phone and you listen to my playlist, I'm all over the place.
Okay.
Some gospel. I'm a mix of everything.
All right. So it's a mix. Is there a favorite song per se that gets you going when you're in the car ride to NBC or when you're with David? Is there a song that makes you move?
A song that makes me move.
You know, it puts you in the good mood.
Well, anything from Tina Turner.
Okay.
Especially Proud Mary. I mean, if I hear Proud Mary by Tina Turner, I mean,
you love it.
Yeah. I can't dance, but you know.
And that's when she was singing it with Ike.
Oh yeah, that was.
Yeah. So, but you know what? I'm going to surprise you when this comes out in about a day or two. So, Proud Mary, keep on burning.
Yep.
You got it. Okay. It'll be another surprise. All right. Question 5, and then we got question A. What can we see from you in the future? What's all going on? Because I know it doesn't stop here at Channel 5. I mean, meaning this, where do you see yourself down the road here now? What do you still want to keep going?
You know, there's a show called CBS Sunday Morning.
Yes, I watch it all the time.
And I watched it since I was a kid with my dad, my parents, my brothers and sisters. And I didn't understand it, you know, years ago. But man, now I'm so into that show and the storytelling and the pace. And my dream, my hope one day is to be a contributor to CBS Sunday Morning with Jane Pauley.
I could see it. I could see it because you are something else with how you report and being a news junkie that you are. All right. The most important question of this podcast, it's a 5A question. What is going on with that turtle pistachio?
Well, you know, I have 8 tortoises.
Okay.
And 2 turtles. I have 2 box turtles, two box turtles, and the rest are tortoises. Pistachio's about to lay eggs, and so they're all in the basement. They have enclosures. My husband loves them. Not really. But and so in the summer it's great because they own the backyard. They're all in the backyard, but in the winter they have to be in enclosures with very strong lights and heaters, and so it's a chore, but it's a labor of love. I love
That's
animals.
fantastic. I just had to bring that up because I saw that you're a lover of turtles and everything else.
Yep.
And after you told me the reptile story, you didn't give up on the animal love.
No. Actually, one of my turtles actually lived in that fire. The firemen found one of my turtles, and I bought
had turtles then.
I had turtles then, and I
wow.
bought the fire department pizza for a week because they went into a burning house to save a turtle.
Incredible.
God bless them.
All right, last thing, I got to say something about you that somebody said something about you. Talk behind your back, but then laid it on the line in social media. And it's a lady that I've interviewed twice.
Okay.
And she said on your 11th year anniversary, which was just recently, she says, congratulations. You have set the bar in our field, and I'm grateful to know you. You are always shining with excellence. It's a lady on the other side of town. It's a lady just like you, Jewel Hillary. For a colleague to say that about you is fantastic. That tells me right there. It's like a guy on another team saying, hey, you played a good game. You're a good player. When she says you set the bar, that is fantastic. And I just love watching you both because she's on Saturday and Sunday morning.
She's on Saturday and Sunday morning. Yep.
And with Sean Lewis. And then I get to watch you on Saturday nights. My wife watches Channel 7, so we won't go there. But anyway, so listen, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart tonight to come on here. I was thrilled when you said yes, because I was like, wow. And this is great. I mean, I'm
glad it worked out.
Yeah, and I hope we could do a part 2 somewhere down the road.
Absolutely. You got it.
Yeah, and I got to tell you.
You got my contact information. You got it.
You got it. Again, Regina, keep up the great work because it's fantastic. And this was one of these invigorating interviews that I truly love.
I enjoyed the questions and I enjoyed our time together. Thank you so much for doing this.
It. All right, everyone. This will come out on YouTube and Spotify and probably by Thursday or Friday so we can watch Regina Waldroup and her rise on her shining star there at NBC. She's unbelievable work. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good night, everyone.
This episode of A Conversation with John Conenna is sponsored by Generate. In today's digital age, staying ahead means harnessing the power of generative AI. Wondering how your small or medium-sized business can join this revolution? Look no further than Generate, your strategic partner for integrating cutting-edge generative AI solutions. We create personalized plans, adapting existing AI technologies to fit your specific business needs. Plus, our expert team provides essential training, empowering you to make the most of these innovative technologies. Interested in transforming your business with AI? Reach out to us at generateteam@gmail.com. That's generate, GENERAIT, team@gmail.com.